The Urbanist is brought to you in association with the Department of Culture and Tourism, Abu Dhabi. Saadiyat Cultural District Abu Dhabi is a beacon of hope and inspiration. A catalyst to spark growth and collaboration with museums and experiences, where art and science and nature and technology coexist.
The belief of Abu Dhabi that culture is the backbone of our society.
Stay tuned for a special episode of the show, in which you can hear His Excellency Mohammed Khalifa Al Mubarak explain exactly why and how Saadiyat Cultural District Abu Dhabi is the perfect place to collaborate, create and innovate. Saadiyat Cultural District Abu Dhabi, proud partner of The Urbanist on Monocle Radio.
In a city full of landmarks, creating a building that can pull focus from an Eiffel Tower or an Arc de Triomphe is always going to be a challenge. But one project completed in 1989 blurs the line between the mundane and the monumental and puts into frame the picturesque beauty of Parisian architecture. You're listening to Tall Stories, a Monocle production brought to you by the team behind The Urbanist. I'm Andrew Tuck. In this episode, and to mark Monocle Radio's presence in Paris over the coming weeks, Emma Nelson takes us to one of the most intriguing of the French capital's notable structures.
Every French president likes to leave an identifiable legacy, and in the case of François Mitterrand in the late 80s, it was architecture. Over the previous 15 years, his Grande Projet scheme had given Paris many of the major artistic and cultural landmarks we take for granted today. The Louvre Pyramid, the Bastille Opera, the Bibliothèque Nationale. France's great talents in art, culture and business had been symbolised in bricks, mortar, stone and glass. It was, however, on the outskirts of the city that in 1996, 6 months after Mitterrand's death, and the week I'd arrived with a one-way ticket to Paris and my CV, that I found my biggest architectural thrill in the business district of all places. Because what could have been a pretty soulless grouping of high-rise towers had at its centre a vast public space. And knocking you sideways if you emerged from the right metro exit was the Grande Arche de la Défense. President Mitterrand's great plan had been to extend the famous Parisian axis that ran east to west, reaching far beyond the Arc de Triomphe, stretching the capital beyond its old limits. He'd called a competition called Tête Défense, and out of more than 400 entries, he chose a little-known Danish architect, Johan Otto von Spreckelsen. Spreckelsen had designed La Grande Arche, the modern answer to the Arc de Triomphe. But this was not only an arch amid the blocks and the cylinders of La Défense, this was also a perfect cube. All white marble and glass, vast, 110 metres high, so big you could slide Notre Dame through the space. It was a piece of art, it was a monument to humanity, and it was a working office of 35 stories high, with a roof garden and planned glass clouds. Mitterrand chose it for its purity and strength. But, as is so often the case, its construction was agony. The president took a fervent interest in every step. Spreckelsen struggled with bureaucracy, calls for compromise and cuts in funding. So he resigned and died 6 months later, aged 57 and 2 years before his vision was inaugurated. The Grande Arche, alongside wildly fun sculptures by the likes of Joan Miro, including a giant thumb by César, transformed La Défense into a giant urban playground. Workers could eat their lunch under its protective vault. It became a standard tourist recommendation for anyone weary of the crowds at the Eiffel Tower. It also made a pretty impressive location for a date. Well, today the Arche is swamped by bigger, taller towers. The dazzling white marble, deteriorated to the point of being dangerous, heartbreakingly has been replaced by granite. But it's still a place to spring a surprise, not least because a keen eye will spot that the Grande Arche does not lie directly on the axis of Paris. It's actually at an angle of a little more than 6 degrees. It would be easy to say this was a bold architectural gesture to impress, but it's not. It's a practical decision, because under the Arche are roads, railways, car parks and a shopping centre. The position was the only one possible, and 35 years on, it can still make you smile.
Tall Stories is a Monocle production from the team behind The Urbanist, and this episode was written by Emma Nelson and produced and edited by David Stevens. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to receive new episodes every week. I'm Andrew Tuck, goodbye, and thank you for listening, City Lovers.